Yeah. So very good afternoon to all, and this is second day of the uh, workshop on research methodology by Dr. Sandeep Raj. So yesterday you might have given some basics and a glimpse of the research methodology, how it will be conducted, and how, what it is exactly, how we have to do research. So all these basics were discussed in the yesterday's webinar. So today he will focus mainly on the mathematical operations, if I hope so. Right, sir?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So it will be useful for you people, and it will be application part is very much useful. So I hope you will enjoy this session, and I request now you to start the sessions. Please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. So
Thank you.
I will be sharing the slide, and before going to the today's topic regarding the sampling and processing and analysis of data, I would just take a couple of minutes to highlight what we discussed yesterday using this figure. And so is the screen visible to all? So
Yes, yes, yes.
yesterday we discussed about the different types of research, how to conduct a research. So this was the basic process, and we mainly focused on the different types of data and the methods for data collection. So just I will take a couple of minutes to summarize yesterday's lecture. To conduct a research, first of all, we need to identify the problem. Then after appears what are the different kinds of research, what we discussed yesterday. The second part is the reviewing literature, in which a researcher basically studies what are the various research works previously done by several researchers, or what kind of papers have been published regarding journals, conferences, book chapters. And after reading the papers of the previous researchers or which are being published, he just makes a hypothesis. Either he can approve or disapprove the hypothesis. So that comes in the last, but he just set up his mind and set up the objective and the hypothesis of research that he or she expect this kind of output after going through this procedure. So based on this, choosing the study design, what will be the method, and then after deciding the sample design, that on what should be the size of data and how the research should be carried on. Based on this sample design, here in the fifth step, today we'll be discussing about the sampling. Then after collection of data, we discussed yesterday regarding what are the different kinds of methods of collection through observation, questionnaire, case studies, survey, interviews. And in last, we okay. So in last we discussed about the secondary data and alternative, what are the different formats, differences between primary and secondary data, and then after, what are the appropriate methods, what are the factors that should be considered, or the appropriate method for selection of data regarding where the scope and nature of availability of funds, time factor, precision. So basically, when we are going to, so I am going to start the topic, and before the collection of the data, one should keep in mind that what should be the amount of data we should consider. Suppose we are collecting the information from the entire nation, so there are approximately, the population of India is 130 crores. So practically, it is not possible to conduct such a survey and get an opinion from each and every citizen of India. So we needed to specify the sample, or we should say a group of people that must represent the opinion of a large mass. So that size, depending on the either, there are many factors responsible for the for selecting the sample size of the population based on the geographical or lingual. So it depends on the type of research which you are conducting. So the sampling size should be discussed, and it should be kept in mind before collecting the data, that on what should be the exact side of the sampling. So I should start from sampling. What is sampling? As I have said, that for larger sections, if your database is large, you are collecting a huge amount of data. It is not practical possible to process them. So we require sampling, means select the partial part of the data. And it depends on several factors, which we will see later. So sampling is just a collection of some part of an aggregate, or totally on the basis of which a judgment or inference about the aggregate or totally is made. In other words, it is a process of obtaining information about an entire population by examining only a part of it. Yesterday, I have given a typical example of regarding the exit polls. Different channels, different agencies conduct their exit polls regarding the elections, regarding this party will win or this party will lose, or what is the current status of the, means what is going on in the mind of the people of that state or the nation. So what basically happens is, it is not practically possible for that agency to reach to each and every common people of that state or country. So what they basically do, they basically divide different regions based on, you can say, one criteria for that division may be based on districts. Based on the district, suppose Bihar, we have 38 or 40 districts. So based on the districts, they conduct their research, they div and representing for each zone, if the population is suppose 5,000 or 10,000, they just take a partial part of that. And it is considered that among a section of that population, which represents the large mass, whatever the opinion they are giving, either regarding the government or the local issues, so that part is considered to be as the opinion of that whole district. So there should be a proper criteria or proper choice regarding the sampling, that on what basis you are doing the sampling. There should be specific parameters decided before collecting the data. And based on sampling, we specify the regions depending on the criteria, and we reach out if we conduct either the surveys or we go for any kind of research, and then we further go for data collection. So the second question is, why should we go for sampling? What is the need? So sampling can save time and money both, because if you have to reach out to each and every citizen of the state or nation, it will require more time to have their opinion. Like, as I have given that, uh, said that you can go for a survey, and to reach out, it will require more time and money to have the opinion of the people there. A sample study is usually less expensive, as I have discussed earlier, than a census study, and produces results at a faster speed. Obviously, this is the case because you are saving the time. Sampling may enable more accurate measurements. For a sample study, it is conducted by generally trained and experienced investigators. This point I have highlighted few minutes ago because sampling is a very important step and it should be based on some criteria that must be useful, because if the sampling is not proper, it will lead to give false results. Sampling remains the only way when population is very large. It enables to estimate the sampling errors. Suppose if their kind of error is responsible for that, or during sampling, if the sampling process chosen is not proper, it will lead to generation of different kind of errors. And thus, it will assist in obtaining information concerning some characteristics of the population. So some basic definitions which will be used in this sampling unit. The terms are universe, population. From a statistical point of view, the term universe refers to the total number of items or units in which any field of inquiry, whereas the term population refers to the total number of items which information is desired. Basically, population is the total number of items, or you can say total number of people if you are going for mass survey. Next comes the sampling frame. The elementary units or the group of cluster of such units may be formed basis of sampling process, and each one they are said called as sampling units. Sampling design. A sampling design is a definite plan for obtaining a sample from a sampling frame. It refers to the technique the researcher would adopt in selecting some sampling units from which inferences about the population is drawn. Sampling design is determined before any data is collected. So as I have said earlier also, there should be fixed parameters or specific, I should say, parameters based on which proper sampling is required. Statics, static and parameters. A static is a characteristic of a sample. Sample here means a small portion of the representing the large amount of data, whereas a parameter is a characteristic of a population. It includes certain measures such as mean, median, and mode. We will study these parameters a bit later in the processing and analysis of data, and like ones from samples. You may have also studied about this mean, median, mode. We will see its significance a bit later. So sampling error, if there is some certain amount of inaccuracy while collecting the data, it will lead to have sampling error. So sample surveys do not imply the study of small portion of the population. As such, there will be naturally a certain amount of inaccuracy in the information which is collected. It arises on account of sampling and generally happen to be random variations. You may have studied about random variables in your statistic course, and this all what are variables and what are the array of data, this all will be discussed after 2 or 3 slides, means within half an hour. So important sampling distributions means what are the different parameters used for the sampling, means on what are how the data can be distributed in a best possible manner. So sampling distribution of mean, it refers to the probability distribution of all the possible means of random variables of a given size which we take from a population. Sampling distribution of proportion, it implies like sampling distribution of mean. Mean is just an average of different samples. We will take an example and we will see. And we can as well have a sampling distribution or proportion in case of statics or attributes. There are other types of distribution also. Distribution just means that your data, how it is distributed and how better distribution can be to draw an inference, or while doing the processing, we can achieve the best results out of that. So it basically talks about the distribution. And there are other types of distributions also, like student T distribution, F distribution, chi-square distribution. Chi-square distribution is widely used, so I would like to discuss this here. That in probability theory and statics, the chi-square distribution with k's degree of freedom is the distribution of sum of squares of k independent standard normal random variables. So in chi-square distribution, it is encountered when we deal with collection of values that involve adding up of squares. We will see that adding of squares is also related to the variance. Okay, it is written here also. Variance of sample require us to add a collection of squared quantities and thus have distributions that are related to chi-square distribution. So what are the different type of methods used for sampling, used in sampling? So two major classifications have been made. The first one is the probability sampling. The other one is the non-probability sampling. A researcher sets a selection of few criteria, means based on some criteria, and chooses the members from a larger population randomly using a method based on the theory of probability. Means here a section or a group or a sample of data is chosen randomly. We will see that this is the basic difference between the probability sampling and the non-probability sampling. And all the members have equal opportunity to be a part of the sample with this selection parameter, because every sample is allowed with equal opportunities to be included in the probability sampling part. So an example can be given as in a population of 1,000 members, every member will have a 1/1000 chance of being selected to be a part of sample. So this implies that every member can be a part of this sample and they will be provided equal opportunity to serve the purpose. So probability sampling eliminates the bias in population, means no biasing can be done, and give all members a fair chance to be included in the sample. The other major class of sampling is the non-probability sampling, in which the researcher chooses the members for research. As I have said earlier, this will be the basic difference between the probability and non-probability sampling. In probability sampling, the selection was random. In non-probability sampling, the researcher will choose the members for research at random. This sampling method is not a fixed or predefined selection process. This makes it difficult for all elements of a population to have equal opportunities to be included in the sample. So in probability sampling is further classified into 4 different types of sampling. The first one is the simple random sampling, and it is one of the best probability sampling techniques, which helps in saving times and resources. It is a reliable method of obtaining information where each single member of a population is chosen randomly, that is merely by chance. Each individual has the same probability of being chosen to be a part of sample. So an example can be provided that in an organization of 500 employees, if the HR team decides on conducting team building activities, it is highly likely that they would prefer picking chits out of a bowl in case each of the employee has an equal opportunity of being selected. So equal opportunity in case of simple random sampling is being provided since it is a kind of probability sampling. The other kind of samplings are cluster sampling. It is a method where researchers divide the entire population into sections or clusters that represent a population. Clusters are identified and included in a sample based on demographic parameters. Means now starts the criteria. In case of simple random sampling, equal opportunities was provided to each and every either. If we have taken the example of employees, each employees were given the equal chance. But in case of cluster sampling, there is some fixed criteria like the cluster will be made either on the basis of age, either on the basis of sex, that is either male, female, or based on locations. So these are made on some specific criteria. This makes it very simple for a survey creator to derive effective inference from the feedback. A typical example can be given of this type of sampling is if the United States government wishes to evaluate the number of immigrants living in the mainland US, they can divide it into clusters based on the states such as California, Texas. Based on the region, they have just divided and formed a clusters. And this way of conducting a survey will be more effective as the results will be in an organized manner and it will provide more insight into the immigration data which is collected. The other type of sampling is the systematic sampling, in which this type of sampling to choose the sample members of a population at regular intervals. It requires the selection of starting point of the sample and sample size that can be repeated at regular intervals. This type of sampling method has a predefined range and hence this technique is the least time consuming. So in systematic sampling, it may occur for more than one time depending on the requirement and depending on the sample size. And it is possible that the sampling is done at regular intervals depending on the what is the output we are receiving at the end during the processing and analysis of the data. So a typical example for such kind of sampling can be given as if a researcher intends to collect a systematic sample of 500 people in a population of 5,000, he or she, each element of the population from 1 to 1,000, he will choose every 10th individual to be a part of sample. So we can see that in this example, the researcher holds the right to sample the data based on the criteria, a common criteria chosen by his part only. And based on this, what he will do, that he will do a regular sampling at regular intervals to gather more information regarding the data. So the most important question arises that which of out of these methods which is responsible in the sampling of the process, what should be the exact size of the data or how much, what should be the size of the data or how large or how small should be n, and what are the points responsible for the selection of data. In sampling analysis, the most important question is what should be the size of the sample and how it will be effective in carrying out the research, and what are the parameters responsible for getting the good results. So the following points should be kept in mind prior to decide the size of sample. The first point is the nature of universe. Universe may be either homogeneous or heterogeneous in nature. If the items of the universe are homogeneous, a small sample can serve the purpose. But if the items are heterogeneous, a large sample would be required. Technically, this can be termed as dispersion factors. So various parameters are there, like number of classes proposed and in how many classes you want to require, means what should be the exact number of classes, means how many number of groups or subgroups you can make, because a small sample might not be able to give a reasonable number of items in each class. And there may be chances, if the group size is very large, there will be less chance to come to a conclusion. The nature of study, what kind of study you are performing, like if the items are to be intensively and continuously studied, the sample should be small. And in general, the survey size of the sample should be large, but a small sample is considered appropriate in technical surveys. Type of sampling, which type of sampling technique you are going to pursue to conduct your research. Like either you are going for the probability sampling or the non-probability sampling. The sampling technique plays an important part in deciding the size of the sample. A random sample is opt to be much superior to a larger but badly selected sample. So the sample size and what are the parameters and how to determine the best size of the sample so that we can achieve or we can reach to good results. So the first factor is standard of accuracy and acceptable confidence level. If the standard of accuracy or the level of precision, we often talk in electronics or the electrical part also while receiving the data of anything, but there is a term which is known as precision. So precision is to be kept high while receiving the data, and we shall require relatively large number of samples. For doubling the accuracy for a fixed significance level, the sample size has to be increased fourfold. Ability of finance means there should be sufficient amount of money to reach or to gather the data. In practical, the size of the samples depend on the amount of money available for study purposes. This factor should be kept in mind while determining the size of sample, and for large sample result in increasing the cost of sampling estimates. So other considerations are nature of unit, size of population, size of questionnaire, availability of trained investigators. The one of the major factor is availability of trained investigators, because proper sampling is very much required, and that sampling among the population or large data, for choosing the criteria, trained investigators are required. The conditions under which the samples has been conducted, means what was the nature of environment under which the data was collected, the time available for completion of the study are the few other considerations to which a researcher must keep in mind before going for sampling. So what are the ethical considerations which one should be keeping in mind while considering the while carrying out the research? So this part I will be discussing at the end of the lecture, because this should be ending. So now I would like to directly come to the processing and analysis of data, and here it involves the mathematics part. So before going into mathematics, I would like to give an example through one slide. I hope that this paint screen is visible to us. And suppose I want to take, before going to analysis and processing of data, just I want to highlight what are arrays, what are variables, and actually it will be repeated many times during the mathematics, which I will be going to discuss later. So I would like to discuss it in the beginning only. All of you are engineering students, so I must consider that you all know about a sinusoidal signal. So generally, if I should suppose I don't want to say this as signals, or suppose it is a sinusoidal signal for means sine function, or we can say that mathematically it is a sine function. So whenever you will try to generate such kind of signals or function in a digital computer using some kind of software, mainly the electrical or electronics or even mechanical and civil engineers, you may have heard about a software which is known as MATLAB. It is easy for you, so you can go for generation, or you may have generated such kind of functions or signals in that software. So what you will basically find is that if you will try to generate such kind of signal, there will be a variable generated, whatever you can name it. And since the function is one dimensional, its x-axis is time and y-axis is amplitude. So you will find that there will be some set of discrete values stored in a variable x. So after doing the sampling, we have sampled the data using the appropriate method for different kind of research. Different sampling methodologies or methods can be used to serve the purpose. Based on the different criteria also we can do the sampling. After doing the sampling, we will go and collect the data. There are several factors also responsible for that, like availability of funds. And after collection of data, we have to process and analyze the data in a manner that one can establish a relationship between the variables, or mathematically saying, one can understand that what is the significance of this kind of function, or whatever parameter we are calculating. Like I will be discussing the mean, median, mode, kurtosis, and several other parameters will be there. So before discussing and going to the relationship of the variables, like when you will go for multivariate or bivariate, means two variables will be involved, then so one by one we are going to study about this. So before going to that, you know about a function which is sinusoidal in nature, and a signal is also defined mathematically, where t is your independent parameter and it is not depending on anything. It will gradually be increasing, and there is a relationship between the x and y axis which forms the sinusoidal signal. So in MATLAB, you will find that the discrete set of values for such kind of amplitudes is stored. So these are just only a variable. Suppose you are generating another kind of variable, like you want to generate any kind of function you can generate in MATLAB. So the variables, in the variables, you are going to store the discrete set of values. It will contain a discrete set of values. And we will process these variables. And what these variables represent? Ultimately, these variables represents the data which you have gathered after sampling. So we are going to process these variables, or directly saying in theoretical manner, I should say that we are going to process the data in a mathematical form. I should say that we are going to process these variables and interpret the results. And we will also try to establish some kind of relationship if more than one variables are there, or if only single variable is present, we will see that what information we can get out from the single variable if available. So now directly coming to the processing and analysis of data, we have studied earlier that there are two kinds of data. The first one is the primary one and the secondary one. In the primary one, the data which is collected by the researcher is original and has not been used or processed through any kind of statistical tool, while the secondary data is the existing one. So after the data is being collected, proper arrangement is done so that the data may be analyzed and interpreted with the help of statistical tools. So statistical tools will be used to interpret or to have some kind of information regarding the data. So there are various tools available where you can, which on which you can be implementing such processing. They are MATLAB, in Python, R programming, Excel, and many others. So basically the processing of data may include the following steps: editing the data, coding the data, classification of data, tabulation of data. So the first step in processing the data is editing the data. It is a careful scrutiny of data to ensure that the data is accurate and we can eliminate the errors as far as possible. Editing of data is a process of examining the collected raw data, especially in service, to detect errors and to correct these whenever it is possible. Editing is done to assure that the data is accurate, consistent with other facts gathered uniformly, entered as completed as possible, and have been well arranged to facilitate coding and tabulation. So the following points must be taken into account before editing the data, whether the data is complete or not, or some amount of or some part of data has not been extracted. So before going to the processing the data, these points must be kept in mind. What is the accuracy of the data, how much accurate data has been received. This can be done by either plotting the data. You can plot the data, and basically what I will try to say is you can plot the data to determine the accuracy, what is the quality of data that you have received, whether the data is uniform or not, or some part of the data is non-uniform in nature. So the first stage in processing the data is editing, and there are two types of editing process. The first one is the field editing and the second one is central editing. In field editing, it consists in the review of reporting forms by an investigator. What latter has been written in abbreviated form and is eligible form at the time of recording the respondent responses. This, time, this type of editing is necessary in view of the fact that individual writing styles often can be difficult for others to decipher. In case of central editing, it should take place when all forms are schedules. If you remember that these forms or schedules were the one method of collecting the data. and have been completed and returned to the office. This kind of editing implies that all forms should get a thorough editing by a single editor in a small study and by a team of editor in case of large amount of inquiry has been done or large amount of data has been gathered for editing purpose. So after editing the data, the coding is being done of the data and which refers to the process of assigning numerals or other symbols to answers so that responses can be put up into limited number of categories or classes. So basically after editing the data, we will code the data and we will see that there are two kind of data in which they will be classified. So before classification, we should go for coding and we will put a particular generally in terms of number. Either we will assign some kind of number or some kind of code to the category which has been decided. So coding is necessary for efficient analysis and through it, several replies may be reduced to a smaller number of classes which contain the critical information required for analysis. Coding decisions should be usually taken at the designing stage of the questionnaire. It is possible to pre-code the questionnaire choices in which it is helpful for computer tabulation as one straightforward key punch from the original questionnaires. So here we are able to see the table in which different parameters or different categories are provided and being coded for an efficient analysis of our data. So this implies that code 1 is to represent the illiterate. If we have collected the if we have gone to survey to an area and we want the number of illiterate persons or how many are able to read, how many are able to read and write, how many have passed the primary or how many have gone to college or based on such kind of criteria. So these categories have been represented by a code for an efficient analysis. The third step comes the classification of data. In the classification of data, it happens to be a process of arranging the data in groups or classes, likewise which the categories we have moved, or we can go for frequency distribution also, we will see that. And based on the classes or based on the common characteristics of the different kinds of data we have gathered. So data have a common characteristic and this characteristic, the term which is the characteristic which is mentioned here, this characteristic we have to find out using the mathematical, or I should say the best word is the statistical tool. So data will have some kind of characteristic and based on the characteristics of a data or based on the common characteristics, it will be classified to a particular class and a common characteristics is placed in one class. And in this way, the entire data will be divided into number of groups. So basically there are two types of data, two types of uh, classification of data can be done either according to the attributes or according to the class intervals. According to the attributes means these are the number of features or the characteristics or the property. It can be a property of a material or it can be several other parameters like literacy, honesty, sex, or such as height, weight, income, or it can be of anything. So according to the attributes, the data are classified on the basis of common characteristics, which can be either descriptive, such as literacy, honesty, etc., or numeral, such as weight, income, height, etc. According to class intervals, the class intervals can be both exclusive or inclusive. In the left-hand side, you can see that there is a range defining from 10 to 20. Actually, it is a class interval, and we have seen in many cases that suppose we are trying to find out the COVID patients on the basis of the age groups, And these 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40 are the different age. These means this, the data has been classified on the basis of age, and based on the class interval, the total number of patients of that particular age can be estimated. So this class interval is of two types, exclusive and inclusive. In case of exclusive, the left hand side works and it is read as 10 and under 20 for the 10-20 case, 20 and under 30. For 30-40, it will be read as 30 and under 40. And suppose if a value comes to be 30, so the question arises that whether it should go in 20-30 case or 30-40 case. So the answer to this question is it will be going into the 30-40 case, since the interpretation in the case of exclusive class interval says 10 and under 20, 20 and under 30. So if 30, 40 or 50 comes, it will be assigned in the next form. In case of inclusive, the data must be in between 11 to 20. So here you can see that what is the maximum range of this class interval. It is not repeated in case of inclusive events. So in these kind of class intervals, there will be no any confusion. But since the maximum range of the class intervals was repeated in the next category, so there can be a bit of confusion, but you should not confuse, since in case of if you are having such kind of data, so it is a case of exclusive class interval and it is interpreted as 10 and under 20. So now coming to the tabulation process. Tabulation is the process of summarizing raw data and displaying the same in compact forms. So basically, after doing the classification of data, you want to make the data compact so that it will be easy to perform the processing of the data. So in a broader sense, tabulation is an orderly arrangement of data in columns and rows. Tabulation is essential because of the following reasons. It conserves space, reduces explanatory and descriptive statement to a minimum. It facilitates the process of comparison. It facilitates the summation of items and detection of errors and omissions. It provides a basis for various statistical computations. And there are several generally accepted principles also which are been accepted to have a uniform form of tabulation. So if the table should be clear and concise and it must be adequate, the title should be always placed just above the body of a table. So there are few suggestions, or we can say that principles, to perform the tabulation of the data. Regarding every tabulation, every table should be given a distinct number of facilitate for easy reference, column headings and row headings, the units of measurement, self-explanatory footnotes. If some kind of references are also available, you can put a star mark and just provide it below the tables. For example, the sources of the data, from where the data has been taken. Usually the columns are separated from one another by lines which can make the table more readable and attractive. Obviously, anything which you present must be attractive. Those columns whose data are to be compared be kept side by side, and similarly percentages or averages must be also kept to close to the data. It is generally considered better to approximate figures before tabulation. Obviously, if you have a data which is after decimal places, this goes up to 6 decimal places. in a data in mathematical form. So better it would be better to approximate those figures. And there is a technical term while processing the data, which is known as the standardization of data. So it is generally considered better to approximate the figures before a tabulation. And as such, the same would reduce the unnecessary details in the table itself. It is important that all column figures should be properly aligned. Decimal points and plus minus signs should be in an alignment. So this is all about how to present a tabulation, means how we can do better with the data so that it will be commonly easily understood by other people also. Abbreviations should be provided to the extent possible. Miscellaneous and exceptional items, if any, will be placed in the last row of the table. The arrangement of the categories in a table must be in a chronological manner, highlighting the geographical, alphabetical, or according to the magnitude to facilitate comparison. So, what does analysis mean? Analysis mean the categorizing, ordering, manipulating, and summarization of data to obtain answers. And for manipulating and ordering, we require the role of statics. So the role of statics in research is to function as a tool in designing research, analyzing its data, and drawing conclusions therefrom. Descriptive statics concern the development of certain indices from the raw data, whereas inferential statics concerned with the process of generalization. So from the inferential statics, you can draw inference, which generally refers to the process of generalization. Means if you have 10 different kinds of data available for 10 different kind of categories, and if you want to generalize the data, you can such kind of statics or tools which is used to generalize such kind of categories of data, then that statics part is known as the inferential statics, where you can draw the inference. It is also known as sampling statics and mainly concerned with two different major kind of problems: the estimation of population parameters and the testing of statistical hypothesis. The important measures that are used to summarize the survey research data are measures of central tendency, statistical averages, measures of dispersion, measures of symmetry, measures of relationship, and other measures. So these are the different statistical tools. We will see that what are the physical parameters. Like in case of measurements of central tendency, we will study about the mean, median, mode, and in mean we will talk about the harmonic mean and geometric mean. So the statistical measures which is used to summarize the survey, these are the following. And after performing these statistical measures, it will be easy for a person to interpret the data. This will also have to have information about the data. You can draw a conclusion regarding the characteristics of the data if you are following or going through these statistical measures. So a static, so the different methods used for the analysis of data are the parametric test, and it is basically the statistical test. The non-parametric test, which makes the certain assumptions about the distribution of the known parameter of interest. There will be a parameter selected, uh, and thus the test static is valid under these assumptions. So the following characteristics means on the basis of these characteristics, this test can be conducted for such kind of population that the sample is large. Population have normal distribution. We will see this, what is this normal distribution through a graph of Gaussian distribution. or in skewness, we will also see how the data is evenly distributed and skewness is 0 or either +1 or -1. The observations are independent. Variables are expressed in interval or ratio scale. Example, the t-test, z-test, f-test, analysis of variance, and it is also known as ANOVA, ANOVA, which are used. This ANOVA is used in many of the research works that I have too studied in during my PhD also. So the non-parametric test, also known as the distribution free test, where the normal distribution is doubtful, sample size is small, data is expressed in terms of ranks, and the examples of such tests are chi-square test, the Mann-Whitney U-test, etc. Talking about the measures of central tendency. So measures of central tendency is also known as the statistical average. You can also call it as average. And tell us the point about which the items has a tendency to cluster. In statics, a central tendency is a central or a typical value for a probability distribution. It is a single value that attempts to describe a set of data by identifying the central position within the set of data. So if we talk about the mean, median, and mode, they are the most popular ones. And they are chosen depending on the situation, depending on the what kind of inference you want to draw or what type of data it is used. So depending on the situation, these three different kind of central tendency examples can be used. So I would make a point here is this measures of central tendency is applicable for single variable only. So you will only collect the data or only you can collect the information for a single sample only. Means you cannot compare the characteristics of a particular variable with another variable. As I have earlier discussed in an example, like there will be two variables and you have to establish a relationship or you have to understand that what is the degree of freedom between those variables and how similar the data is from one another. So there will be chances you have to establish a relationship between the variables. So before going to that, I would like to make one example also. Where is paint? All of you may have seen, you may have heard about a term which is known as ECG. Since it is a signal, so it will be one dimensional and it will be typically looking like this. Why I am giving this example, I will tell you a bit later. And a ECG typically looks like this. P, Q, R, S, T. And there will be two environments if you are going to collect the data. The first environment should be a person who is sitting inside a room. And if you want to gather the data of such kind of person, you will find that the heart rate of a person sitting inside his room or in his house, it will be approximately 70 to 90 bits per minute. Just take an example. Bits per minute. And if the same person goes for running, And if you will measure the heart rate of the same person while he is running, the heart rate will increase and it may go up to 110 beats per minute. I am not saying that this is medically true, but I am just giving an example. So, and I also consider regarding the data, what assumption I am making regarding the data is that the person is normal. He is not having any kind of disease. It can be related to such case in a sinusoidal signal also, that we have a sinusoidal signal with a frequency of 10 hertz, and we can have another sinusoidal signal with a frequency of 50 hertz, 50 samples per second. And you can, as you can see, that both will have same appearance. Only the thing is the frequency of occurrence of each upper bound and lower bound in the sinusoidal signal has increased. And if you want to establish, first of all, don't establish a relationship between these two variables. Consider this 10 hertz sinusoidal signal as x. So whatever the data is stored in this variable is x, and for a 50 hertz or a person running for this, consider this as y, and the discrete set of values will be stored inside this variable. So one may be interested in finding out the characteristics of this data. So I should say one thing, that when you will go for AI or machine learning, which is pure the mathematical part, pure mathematics is involved in that. So you will be basically interested to gather the information about these data, about, and this will be classified as the same category. As I earlier I was talking about the category, this both data will fall in the sinusoidal category. However, if you will calculate the mean or median or mode, the statistical parameters, you will find that they differ from each other in the same category. So it should be kept in mind before studying regarding the variables and the various tests which has to be performed, that we are trying to gather the information inherited inside the data by processing the data through some statistical tools, so that it can be well interpreted and we can draw good conclusions, or we can achieve better results out of that. So first of all, we can gather the specific characteristics in a single variable case. In the second one, we can go for correlation also. You may have heard about autocorrelation and cross correlation, where we are trying to find the similarity of a variable with the same variable in case of autocorrelation. In case of cross correlation, we are trying to establish a relationship within a, means establish a relationship between the two variables. So we will see each of this one by one. So now coming to the slide again. In terms, means for the measures of central tendency, there are different, you have studied about the mean, median and mode. You know how to determine the mean? The sum of the value of individual in the data divided by the total number of individuals in the data. Its formula is given by sigma of xi, and it is The mean is denoted by X bar, where X bar is the mean of that variable which we want to calculate. Sigma is the summation symbol. Xi is the value of ith term, and n is the total number of items. So what I want to just highlight here is this mean, median, and mode. If you will calculate it for a particular sequence of data or a variable of the same category also, there will be cases and you will find that you will get different values of mean, median, and mode for the same data. And finally, you will get such kind of conclusion that what means how much the data is shifted from a central position to that position. So if you want to calculate the mean for a frequency distribution also, it is denoted by sigma of fi xi by sigma of fi, where fi is the frequency of that. Weighted mean can be also calculated. So very quickly, I will try to highlight all the mathematical tools which are being used in processing and analysis of data. And there will be several kinds of tests also to add support to the hypothesis which can be done. So median, it is a value of middle term of the series. You have well studied about this when it is arranged in an ascending or descending manner of magnitude. So if total number is odd, then the median of that sequence will be n by 1 plus 2th term. And median can be defined as a positional average, and it is used only in context of qualitative phenomena. We have studied the qualitative research also. Mode is the most commonly frequently occurring values in a series. The mode is a distribution is that item where the maximum concentration is. So this mean median mode can be explained through an example. Here we have a series of data which is randomly distributed. They are, you can say that they are not in a proper order. So if you want to calculate the mean, you will have a sum to each of these terms. You have to add these terms and you have to divide by the total number of terms to get the mean value. Since I have calculated the total number of items in the sequence, so the total number is 11. So the sixth term, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the sixth term will be the median of this sequence, since it is a middle number. And mode will be 11, which is the most frequent occurring sample, you can say, or the most frequent occurring value in this sequence. So I should give one more scientific example also, since we are dealing with single variables and the signal represents the such kind of cases. So I should say that these are certain parameters that are extracted in signal processing applications also. You can calculate the mean of different kind of different data, and you can just draw a conclusion regarding what should be the central position of the data and how much it is deviated from them. But to have an exact computation of the deviation, there are several other tools like standard deviation and calculation of variance also. So the second classification is on the basis of measures of dispersion, means how you can estimate the distribution or the dispersion of the data. So when you will, so to To determine that, let me give one more example. So if you are having some kind of variable like x, and it is having a length of 1 cross 1024, and suppose the values are a1, a2, a3 up to a1024. So you can see the dispersion of the data by actually plotting the data. And in Excel, since Excel is being used and all of us may have seen about the Excel, you can go for scatter plot to see that where these points actually lie on the plane and how much dispersed they are from each other. So in the measures of dispersion, it fails to give an idea about the scatter of the values. So this is actually regarding the previous slide or the previous topic which we are discussing regarding the measures of central tendency, that where that cannot be used or why it cannot be used to some specific problems where we are interested in getting the information regarding the scattering of the data, regarding how much the data is being scattered among the themselves or the value of the items. So the measures of in the measures of central tendency, like for calculating the mean, median, and mode, it fails to tell us about the scatter of the values of items of a variable in the series and around the true value of average. So the mode in a distribution, so it indicates the extent of scattering that I have said earlier, or the variability of item about the central value. That if you will pick a particular value, which will be the central value, and you can estimate that how much or what different values has been scattered among in a particular variable. So the mode in a distribution is that item around which there is a maximum concentration. And in order to measure this scatter, several statistical tools are actually there, which are known as the measures of dispersion, and they are being calculated, for which the important ones are the range. We calculate the range, the highest value and the lowest value, and we will just subtract them to determine the range. The mean deviation, how much the deviation is from the mean. Standard deviation. So starting with the range, as I have said that a range is the simplest possible measure of dispersion, and it is defined as the difference between the values of extreme items of a series. And a range can be determined as the highest value of an item in a series subtracted from the lowest value of the item in the series, and then we can have the range. Regarding the mean deviation, again, I want to give one example regarding the mean deviation. Uh, in the paint slide, I would like to give. So as I have said that it is a variable, and let me just get it refreshed. Suppose you have a variable x and it is having a value of a1, a2, a3, a4. किस चीज की फाइल है? So suppose you have a variable x and you have calculated the mean given by, and you are interested in the starting point of the variable, much it deviated from a central value. Like you can calculate this deviation by calculating the mode of the particular sequence also. You can calculate the mode, you can calculate the median, you can calculate the mode, and you can calculate the deviation from a particular position of a sample either in a variable, or we will see later in the cases of many variables, means more than two variables are involved. So again, coming to the slide. So in the mean deviation of all value of data from either average, mode and median, as I have stated, your deviated value. That value, central value, can be defined by calculating mean, median, and mode. So the mean deviation is calculated using the formula sigma x minus mu by capital N, where mu is the mean and x is the each value, and capital of N is the total number of data. So the question is, why we are having such kind of, why we are calculating the deviation? Actually, we are interested to find out that if the data is of same category, suppose in the classification of data, means in the classification of data, we have studied a bit earlier. In the suppose there are 10 number of variables involved in a particular category. So how much deviation is there, means how much deviation is there, means how much scattering of the data is there between them in a particular category. And that can be done for the different categories also. So mean deviation from median can also be connected, and the mean mu in this formula can be replaced by capital of M, which can be termed as median. And mean deviation from mode can also be calculated, and the capital M will be representing the mode calculated for that particular sequence of, or the particular variable. The coefficient of mean deviation, when the mean deviation is divided by the average used in finding out the mean deviation itself, then we say that it is a coefficient of mean deviation. Means the average divided by the mean deviation, taking the average in finding out the mean deviation. It is relative measure of dispersion. Means by calculating the coefficient of the mean deviation, we can estimate the measure of dispersion, or we can estimate the dispersion, which is used in statistical studies for judging the variability, that how much variation is in the data. The other example of such is standard deviation, which is widely used in statistical signal processing. One such application is there. It is widely used, most widely, and it is defined as the square root of the arithmetic mean of the squares of deviations of the observation from the arithmetic mean. And the standard deviation is represented by mu, and it is under the square root of the sigma of ith element in X minus the mean by total number of elements in the variable. And if you want to calculate the standard deviation for a frequency distribution, we should be following this formula, where Fi will be denoting the frequency of the frequency distribution. Actually, it should be the length. After standard deviation, its coefficient comes. As such, it was the relative measure in the case of mean deviation also. If we divide the standard deviation by arithmetic average of the series, it should be considered as an important measure. Coefficient of variation, when this coefficient of standard deviation is multiplied by 100, this can be termed as the coefficient of variation. Another such characterizing the single dimensional data, or you can say one dimensional variable or variables who are one dimensional. So this variance is actually the square of standard deviation, and which is frequently used in the context of analysis of variation. Its advantages are it is used in many research studies and it is regarded as a very satisfactory measure of dispersion in a series. It is amenable to mathematical manipulation because the algebraic signs are not ignored in its calculation. It is less affected by fluctuations of sampling. This is a very important point, and this I want to also explain using the paint, and why it should not affect. It should be in your mind that suppose while collecting the data, before, the sampling was not proper, and in a variable or in a data, whatever you can say, some of the values are wrong. Either they may be increased or decreased or multiplied by some of the quantity. And this is due to the fact that the sampling incurred some kind of error during the reception of data. But if you use such kind of tools, like if you will calculate the variance or if you will calculate the standard deviation, so what actually you are doing is if you are calculating the coefficient of mean deviation or coefficient of standard deviation, you are generally taking the average. So whenever you will take the average and you will calculate the standard deviation and then after you will divide, the outcome of such calculation will be very small. So that's why I have said in my presentation that it is less affected by fluctuations of sampling. So if you will go for calculation of coefficient of standard deviation or coefficient of variation, it will lead to, means it will, the outcome will be less affected by the fluctuations in sampling. Since we have studied the sampling error also, so there can be some amount of error involved in the process of sampling. So its applications, measures of dispersion, where it can be used in the context of estimation, where we want to estimate something, and testing of the hypothesis also, where we want to test the hypothesis, which was the third step of our research procedure to be conducted. This is the third is the measures of asymmetry, which is also termed as the skewness. And symmetry means very in layman terms, I should say that symmetry means the appearance, how much similar or dissimilar a data is, and in skewness, we will have its value based on the distribution of the data, whether the data is evenly distributed, or we will term this even distribution as normal distribution. And if the data is uh, rightly distributed or left side more distributed, we will see these cases in a couple of minutes. So when the distribution of an item in a series happens to be perfectly symmetrical, we have the following types of curve for the distribution. You are seeing this curve, and about the center of this curve, a line is being drawn to highlight that this is a normal distribution. If this would not have been normal distribution, this line about the central of this peak value either may have tilted or shifted towards right or towards left. And we can then after, for such cases, we assume that the curve is distorted and the skewness exists. Since it is a normal distribution, it is also known as Gaussian, or and we you may have studied in the probability density distribution functions also there. So in Gaussian distribution, we use the same graph. So since it is a case of normal distribution, since this line is about the central of the mid value of this curve, it is a case of normal distribution, and we conclude that there is no skewness. The skewness, its value is zero. The curve above described is considered as a normal curve, and thus relating the distribution as a normal distribution. Such curve is perfectly bell-shaped. The nature of the curve is bell-shaped, in which the case the value of x or m or z is just the same, and its skewness is altogether absent. So what this denotes regarding the data is that the data is uniformly distributed, and if in case the curve is distorted, we say that the skewness exists. For skewness, if the value is greater than +1, then the distribution is rightly skewed. And if its value is less than -1, the distribution is left skewed. Skewness is thus a measure of asymmetry and shows that in which the items are clustered around the average. Obviously, we can conclude that if this light is either shifted to the left or it is shifted to the right, we can have two possible values, which is +1 or -1. And we can say that there is some kind of distortion in the curve and the value of skewness exists. So the skewness also refers to a distortion or asymmetry that deviates for symmetrical bell curve or normal distribution in a set of data. It can be quantified as a representation of the extent to which a given distribution varies from a normal distribution. So if we will plot the distribution of our data, and if we measure the skewness, what we can conclude is we can have more information regarding the data in terms of distribution. The second important parameter is the kurtosis. Actually, these are the higher order cumulants, which is used in the signal processing many times. And actually, these are the features or the characteristics of a data, which is calculated to highlight or to differentiate a particular data from the other data. So kurtosis is a measure of flat topedness of the curve. How much flat is the curve? A bell-shaped curve or the normal curve is a mesocortic because it is cortic in nature. But if the curve is relatively more peaked, means if being a bell shaped, it is having a peak than the normal curve. It is said to be at leptocortic, and where a curve is more flat than a normal curve, it is termed as the platycortic. In brief, kurtosis is the humpedness of the curve and points to the nature of distribution of items in the middle of series. The next differentiation is measures of the relationship based on the relationship, and here we will observe that in the measures of the relationship will be able to relate or differentiate two different kinds of two data. Means we will talk about the two variables or multivariables, and there will be certain tools or certain correlation coefficients, some, what should I say, some coefficients will be there to calculate either the similarity of the data, either to, you can say, the characterize the data. So far we have dealt with those statistical measures we have used in the context of univariate population. Univariate generally implies the single dimensional or single variable population in which we were only interested to collect the information about the single variable only, and the population consisting of measurement for one variable. In bivariate population, the data consists of two variables. If we are interested to calculate, to estimate or to establish a relationship between two variables, we can calculate or we can go for cross tabulation. We can calculate the Charles Spearman coefficient of correlation, Carl's Pearson coefficient of correlation, and cause and effect of relationship can be studied through simple regression equations. And if we are interested to establish or differentiate between two or more variables, the correlation, this correlation I have discussed few minutes ago. So the means more than one variables will be involved, and the correlation can be studied through coefficient of multiple correlation, coefficient of partial correlation, and cause of effect of relationship, which can be studied through multiple regression equations. So you will find that this regression is also widely used in machine learning applications. In the cross tabulation approach, it is especially useful when the data is a nominal form, and under it, we classify each variables in two or more categories and then cross classify the variables in subcategories. Then we look for interaction between them regarding whether the data is symmetrical or asymmetrical, or we will try to establish a relationship. So a symmetrical relationship is one in which two variables vary together, but they are not varying or depending on each other. So we assume that neither variable is due to each other, means they do not vary in relation to one another, means saying they are independent from each other and they are varying together. A reciprocal relationship exists when the two variables mutually influence or re-influence each other. An asymmetrical relationship is said to exist if one variable is responsible for other variable. So for calculating the relationship among two variables, we will be now focusing on the Charles Spearman coefficient of correlation and Carl Pearson coefficient of correlation. So before going to the correlation, what is Charles Spearman given by the philosophy is given by Charles Spearman or Carl Pearson. The correlation, the term correlation basically specifies to establish a relationship between two variables to determine the similarity, and it is classified in two parts: autocorrelation and cross correlation. But we will focus on the syllabus, which is the Charles Spearman coefficient of correlation, and it is a technique of determining the degree of correlation, means how much similar the two variables are between the two variables in case of ordinal data where the ranks are given to different values of the variables. Its main objective, actually there are several kind of tools available: Charles Spearman or Carl Pearson. So now the question will, one more question you should ask. I don't know why you are not asking the question, but where specific these tools or these methods will be applied to. Whatever I am just speaking up regarding the mathematics, regarding the mean median mode, regarding the correlation, more or less you may have studied if you are the MTech students, or in the electrical engineering course or the electronics and communication also. To some extent you may have studied in your mathematics part also. But I am trying to figure out that how you can practically relate to the data. Means what kind of mathematical expressions will be applicable to which kind of situations. Actually, that is the important part of this. Reading the formula telling about Charles Spearman coefficient is to determine the extent to which the two sets of ranking are similar or dissimilar. This coefficient is determined using the formula, whether the I is the difference between the ranks of ith pair of two variables, and n is the number of observations, d is the degree involved. As rank correlation is a non-parametric technique for measuring the relationship between paired observation of two variables. When data are in the ranked form, we have dealt with this technique in greater detail. So coming to the Carl-Pearson coefficient of correlations. So if you have any questions, you may please go forward and ask. There are other kind of correlations coefficients also to measure the degree of relationship between the variables. So if you are calculating the value of correlation, so it is represented by R. And if its value lies between +1 and -1, so the positive values of R indicate positive correlation between two variables. If the negative value of R is there, it changes the two variables changing place in opposite directions. In the regression analysis, it is determination of the statistical relationship between two or more variables.
नहीं कल वाला नहीं देखकर खत्म क्या करना
Regression,
दूसरा
we have only two variables, one variable
देखने लायक हो
defined as independent. Regression
नया
can
देखने
only
स्टार्टिंग से नाम
interpret
क्यों गुस्सा
what physically exists, and there must be a physical way in which the in detail
KGF मूवी
variable
है
X
कैसा
can affect the
लड़ाई पीट वाला
dependent
मूवी
variable Y. So the basic relationship between X and Y is Y is equal to A plus BX.
इंस्पिरेशनल नहीं है देखा
So
हुआ है
this equation is known as the regression equation and also represents the regression line drawn on graph. So that can be done through the least square method, which is generally used to find the best fit that a straight line of this kind. There are other kind of measures also, like having the index numbers and time series analysis. And these are the references. And I will end up with the ethics involved in the research.
अंदर घुसो गोलू
So I think here is the point. Ethical considerations while doing the research. Respect the participants should not be subjected to harms in any ways whatsoever. So if you are trying to collect the data, either you are collecting the biological data from some kind of animals or persons, so they do not be subjected to harm. Respect for the dignity of research participants. Full consent should be obtained from the participants. The protection of the privacy of research participants, means the participants whose data you are gathering should be kept confidential. It should be not generally shared without private restrictions. Adequate level of confidentiality of the research data. Anonymity of individuals and organizations participating in the research has to be ensured. Any deception or exaggeration about the aims and objectives, affiliations. So this must be kept in your mind while conducting the research. And after interpreting the data, you have seen that we have studied in the single dimensional, single variable. We have tried to establish the relationship between the multivariables in the correlation case or the coefficient or Karp-Pearson case, and in the multivariables also. So these are the different tools used in different scenarios to differentiate the data among themselves, to gather the information among themselves. And when you will try to just perform the processing, you will find that if you will apply to machine learning, and if you want to apply this technique to some kind of data, these will represent the features of the data or the characteristics of the data. And this will help you to come to a conclusion regarding the distribution of the data, how much the data or the variable is distributed, whether it is normal or not. And then after, in the research case, we can go for the technical part, which is the writing, and the writing can be of the form of either thesis writing or report writing, or you can go for journals or conferences. And I would like to take the questions from your side now. I will end up by this time. Actually, I want to take the questions from you. Anyone? Any among the participants, if you have any questions? Any questions are there? So then let me conclude from my side that the research is more or less partly done by every one of us in our daily life. And there are different kinds of research. For that, we use different kind of methods. Then after, we should keep in mind regarding which method we should go during the research. Then after, what should be the size of data we should keep in mind. What are the different parameters we have discussed responsible for a good sample of data collection. After collecting the data, there is a need to process the data, for which we have studied these statistical tools for the single variable, for the multivariables, or in the two variables case also. And then after, we will go for the test of the hypothesis like the t-test, f-tests, and then after we will go for the report writing. So I am over by now. If you have any questions, you please go forward and ask the questions. Hello.
Yes, sir.
If you have any questions, you please go forward and ask. Regarding this mathematical or statistical tools, regarding how to conduct whatever related to the topic, you can ask your questions.
So if no one has any doubt, then you can also have the we can also have the email ID of Sandeep sir, and then meanwhile, if while doing project you get any doubt or confusion, then you can contact him.
So my email ID is, I would share this. My email ID is sraj.ec@iitbh.ac.in.
Sandeep sir, just give me 1 minute. I will be back in just 1 minute. Just
Yes, sir.
yes.
This is my email ID, sraj.ec@iitbh.ac.in. I wanted to talk more
Sir,
about the
can we get the PPT of this webinar?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You just give a mail to me, or you just drop a mail, or I will circulate this to the Amit sir. Actually, he has requested me in the morning only. But
Okay, sir.
since a lot of mathematics was used, so I was basically interested in discussing the physical part of the mathematics regarding where these mathematical tools or the different coefficients will be used. If I talk about mean, everybody know how to calculate the mean or how to calculate the average. Everybody will go and study the formula for this. But what is the significance of that formula, or where we should use the formula, or what the formula does? These were the important factors in getting the information regarding the characteristics of the data. So I was basically interested in discussing those points regarding what is the significance, why we should calculate the mean. In the mathematics, all of us studied in class 6, 7th, 8th, calculate mean, median, and mode. But why? What is its significance in the role of research? How we can differentiate the data
Yes, sir. Yes,
based
sir.
on
That part is very interesting for me.
Yes, because formula anybody can study, but what is the significance where we can apply them? That was the important part. So again, if you have some questions, you please go forward and ask. This regression is widely used in machine learning applications also, and that machine learning is also pure mathematical part. There are different kind of algorithms. So this part, if you will talk in terms of AI, this calculation, whatever we were calculating, either the mean, median, mode, coefficient of correlation, standard deviation, variation, we are doing the regression, either multiple regression for multiple variables case or least square method to best fit, or these kind of coefficient. these were nothing. These were just the characteristics of the data. Characteristics means based by calculating these parameters or these components, you can say, you can differentiate between two different kinds of data or two different kinds of data of same category, for which I have given the example of the sinusoidal case, or for the practical case I have given the example for the calculation of heart rate case for the same person but in two different environments, in which he was sitting and in the second he was running. So all of these statistical tools will be used in different conditions depending on the environments to highlight the characteristics of the data. You can how to interpret the data. These values of skewness and symmetry, they are the statistical features, and we call this as higher order cumulants. These higher order cumulants are basically used for non-linear analysis of data. I have actually seen your syllabus and I have talked about those parts only. But there is a lot of discussion can be done on the mathematical part regarding the analysis part only. The linear part, the non-linear part, what are the different tools involved in the non-linear part analysis. And there we use some kind of these parameters as features to represent different kind of data. So let me ask you one question. If all of you have, हाँ सर कुछ कह रहे थे पुष्पेन सर.
Sir, it's okay. You can go ahead.
Okay. So I want to ask the participants a question from the students only, not from all the participants, since I think the faculties may have also joined the presentation. But can you give me an example where, means perfect example, where you are going to use these mathematical or statistical tools? I told that this is to differentiate the data. But what is a specific example which you can give to me? Please give a specific example. Data is okay, but specific example. For such cases,
Sir, these mathematical analysis can be used in noise calculations.
yes, partly right, but I should say no actually. Because noise calculation, there is a term called as signal to noise ratio. And based on that, different filters can be designed to remove the noise. So,
There also
okay,
we
to some,
calculate
no,
the
no,
mean
obviously
median.
to some extent you can use, but I am talking about a particular application, end-to-end application. Actually, noise calculation can be a part of something. I am fine with that. To some extent, noise calculation, but I am asking a typical application. these tools, whatever mathematics you have studied or you will be going to study in future also, these are widely used in artificial intelligence applications, either in the biomedical area, or if you go about the, if you uh, if you want to study about the market, means the business, that whether the value of share is going to fall or rise. So there you will find that these statistical tools, I have so many examples. If you will go for image processing, if you will go for signal processing, if you will go for audio processing, but there are more other kind of tools also. They are also the mathematical tools which have been used. But this tool is basically, always remember, to extract the significant amount of information from the data. So this will be basically used to differentiate two data. So for automation purpose, suppose you have developed a face recognition device, you have to develop a face recognition software or device or such kind of automation applications. And if the system is given by your image or my image, so the system has to automatically decide based on the feedback given to the system, which is technically called as training. And in training process, you will find that whosoever is to allowed to enter into the class, whether going, you have to face the software for that. So the features of that, these are actually the features of the data or the characteristics of the data we extract to differentiate among two variables, I should say two data. If the data represent, if the data is of two different kind of persons also, you can differentiate based on that. So for automation applications, but it is something related to the machine learning. So it should be clearly understood as the characteristics of the data. You are basically interested in interpreting the characteristics of the data or gathering significant information out of the data. So I will end up by now, and I will request.
Okay, so
Yes, sir.
yeah. So thanks a lot, Sandeep sir. Thank you very much. I would like to extend thank from our principal ma'am. Actually, she could not join because of some other work. So I thank on behalf of her and our electronics and communication engineering department that you took time to guide our students. Thank you very much, sir. And
Thank you, sir.
I request. I also thank all the students
Participants
that
also.
they have. Yeah, all the participants that they have joined this seminar to get lot of knowledge regarding the research methodology, and that would be quite useful for you when you carry out your project work in the second year. So that will be very beneficial. So at last, I would like to thank Sandeep sir once again. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
I also request the participants to get to be connected with Sandeep sir when they get any troubles. So, and he's always he's so kind that he's always available to help us. So thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for everything, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So we will end this webinar here only. And thank you all. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
sir.
sir.